Councilor Hurst. Absent. Councilor Shea.
Present.
Councilor Twiggs. Absent. Councilor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councilor Rook. Absent. Councilor Bud Williams. Present. Councilor Orlando Ramos. Absent. Councilor Marcus Williams. Present. Councilor Gomez. Present. Councilor Ash. Present. Councilor Edwards. Present. Councilor Walsh. Present. Councilor Fenn.
Present. Will the council and our guests please rise for a moment of silence? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, councilors, I did receive correspondence from Councilor Rook. He is out of state on business and does not expect that he'll be able to join us this evening. I know Councilor Hurst is here, so he'll be back shortly. But Mr. Clerk, in the meantime, why don't we call the first item?
The first item is an order to establish polling places for the September 8th primary sponsored by the mayor.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening. My name is Gladys Oyola. I'm Commissioner for the Election Commission of the City of Springfield. And the first order presented by our department is establishing the 64 polling places for the September 8th primary election.
Any changes?
No changes have occurred in this election cycle.
Any questions from the council? Okay, Councilor Walsh.
I do have a question, and it really doesn't have to do with your polling places, but it's about early voting. Is there a policy for that? Has that been established, and will we be doing it?
Yes, the Secretary of State's office has established guidelines for early voting, which will take place in October. There's going to be advertising after the September primary so as not to confuse the voters, and the City of Springfield has set forth a plan to have locations, aside from City Hall, in all of the different wards.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we call the roll on this, Commissioner, while we have you here, for the CPA question on the November ballot, are we on schedule to have that?
It's my understanding that we are on schedule. I think Attorney Bakula might be able to speak to it a little better than...
Okay, that's fine. We don't need to really get into that tonight. But okay, Mr. Clerk, seeing no further questions, if you could please call the roll.
On approving the order to establish polling places, Councilor Hurst. Absent. Councilor Shea.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twiggs. Absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook. Absent. Councilor Bud Williams. Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Present.
Ooh, sorry. Will the clerk please recognize the councilor in seat number 7?
Councilor Ramos.
Present.
Councilor Marcus Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ash.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes, warrant sufficient. Warrant is approved. Okay. While we're waiting for Councilor Hurst, is there any opposition to skipping to item number 3?
No.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 3 is a petition for petroleum storage at the location known as 658 Berkshire Avenue.
Okay, will the clerk please recognize the councilor in seat number 1?
Councilor Hurst.
Okay. Councilors, we have correspondence here from the fire department through Commissioner Conan seeking approval for this. Is there any questions on this storage petroleum permit? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay. Item number 2, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 2 is an order to approve the amended host community agreement with Hamden Care Facilities regarding the property known as 506 Cottage Street.
Okay. Councilor Gomez, do we have a report of committee?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was actually late to the meeting, but Councilor Marcus Williams facilitated, also with Melvin, Councilor Melvin Edwards. There's also was a discussion was held on the freshwater fish consumption advisory. The park department had placed signs up to warn the public of what they may be consuming. Many people fish in the Springfield waterways to eat the fish in order to save money, and an ordinance would help protect the public of these dangers. Councilor Marcus Williams made a motion to support this issue, and Councilor Edwards seconded the motion to send it to full council. In the discussion, the marijuana dispensary went back and forth with Attorney Antonucci, who represents the Hamden Care Facility in the Health and Human Services Subcommittee. The council voted a 3-0 to decide against issuing a recommendation on the proposed agreement negotiated between the developer, Hamden Care Facility, and city officials representing Mayor Sarno. They offered to reduce the right to be the designated sole dispensary in Springfield from a 10-year period to a 5-year term, with an option to renew. Security of the facility was also discussed. The facility, if passed, would be located at 506 Cottage Street. Councilors myself, Marcus Williams, and Edwards decided to send this item to vote for the full council. In attendance was Councilor Edwards, Gomez, Williams, Ramos, Walsh, Hurst, and Allen, Attorney Davis, Pakula, and Helen Cohen, and Edward Brunton from the Parks Department were also there.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving the report of committee, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You guys have it. Okay, Attorney Antonucci, if you'd like to maybe make some opening remarks before we deliberate internally on the order approving the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being patient with me as I called you, emailed you, and talked to you about the issues that you had concern about and the attention that you've paid to this matter, and hopefully we have answered or tried to address those questions. Edmund Burke was a great parliamentarian in the 18th century, and he said government, and he was referring to democracy, works best on the basis of compromise and barter. And we've seen in Washington over the past few years what is called in the media gridlock, because there is no compromise and barter. In this particular situation on this piece of the host agreement, we have attempted to compromise and provide barter to the city on many points. We've agreed to make payments to the neighborhood councils. We've agreed to the minority hiring suggested by Bud Williams. We've agreed to the hiring of Springfield residents. We've agreed to, I think it was 3 changes in the special permit. And we've agreed to pay real estate taxes even though we are a tax-exempt charitable organization. We've also reduced the original 10-year exclusivity to 5 years, and we subsequently, after the last subcommittee meeting, renegotiated with the city again and agreed to make that option, the 5-year option, subject to this body, the City Council, which is what we heard you wanted to have a say on it. We also have agreed within the agreement, and I think it's Article 3 of the agreement, that the mayor has several options whereby, so to speak, he can pull the plug on us. One of us, which is number 3, basically says, and I'm paraphrasing, it's in legal language, as lawyers talk that way, basically if he's not satisfied with what we're doing, or there are changes, we haven't provided what he feels is a good provision, he can open up the renegotiation agreement, which includes everything, including exclusivity. Additionally, I believe in paragraph 1 of that agreement, there's a provision with respect to the fact that if, in fact, some other communities in the 4 western counties has a better economic deal than the city of Springfield, he can renegotiate. So this isn't an ironclad agreement whereby we are locked in and have no way we are ironclad for 5 years. We have those, all of those agreements in it. So we've made those compromises and barters. We also heard that there was some concern by some councilors about the fact that we reduced the payment in the first 5 years by 1%. That payment was, let's first talk about the payments. This, as a city councilor, a city solicitor indicated, is not a revenue-producing piece of legislation. What we're paying for is mitigation of expenses to the city, $50,000 to the police, and a percentage thereafter to the city to pay for whatever mitigation the city needs. That was negotiated with the city. We were paying on top of that a higher percentage because we were getting an exclusivity. The exclusivity was initially for 10 years. We've cut that in half to 5 years, subject to this body's approval. Cutting that, we reduced what we would be paying by 1%. And all I can do is liken it to if you went to, let's say, the Big Y, and you went in there and you ordered the best steak they had, and they said, that's $15. But when you went to pay for it, they gave you something less, Hamburg. Are you going to still pay $15 a pound? And I don't mean to say that we're going down to Hamburg getting 5 years, but I'm trying to draw an analogy, but there's an economic relationship.
Anthony.
There's no economic relationship between what our revenue is and the amount of money we should be paying. It's mitigation costs, not revenue producing. So we're willing to pay for that exclusivity. We made a slight reduction. If we were a new business coming into town, other than a marijuana dispensary that had to come before the city and the board, and we said, look, what we're going to do in this case is we're going to hire all the people that we can from the city of Springfield. 38% of them will be minorities. We will pay our taxes even though we don't have to. We'll pay something to the neighborhood. We'll agree to whatever you want in terms of special permit. And I think this body and the city in general will be pretty happy with someone coming in, paying decent living wages to Springfield people. Instead, we've been in this barter and compromise situation, which from my standpoint, we've been doing the giving. And we have no problem with that. We understand the democratic process and that this body has a rightful and legitimate say in this host agreement, and we've tried to accommodate you. If we are now dealing with an issue of 1%, we heard that term 1%ers in the presidential campaign went on, and it wasn't a very flattering remark. It shows a disregard for the majority of the people. There were a lot of people who voted to have marijuana legalized. You remember the original meeting that we had, it seems like weeks ago now, if not months, and there was standing room only in this room. And when President Fenton asked for a show of hands of those who were opposed to step forward, not one person, and every one of these seats was taken, and we were 3 deep back there. I was pressed up against the wall. Not one person said, I am opposing this. That's been the same thing at the subcommittee meetings, and I think if you did a show of hands, we'd have the same situation tonight. So, I listened to the president, not to someone who applied and apparently did not get what they wanted. And I think that's part of the problem, too, is we have people who unfortunately didn't make the cut, who were lobbying people, complaining, criticizing us, and I would suggest that the committee, which we had no say over, no control over, it was city department heads, picked us, and it's my understanding, by a wide margin in terms of the best alternative for the city, should be listened to. Now, there's also been talks about the fact that, well, the exclusivity. Where's the exclusivity in any other agreement? I couldn't get all the other agreements. I tried to give some information to Councilor Allen, who requested in that regard. But I can tell you there's only one person in Chicopee, one in Northampton. And I think when you draw comparisons, you have to look to the 4 western districts in terms of finding something comparable. And in fact, the agreement calls for the 4 western counties to be the judge as to whether there's a better economic program put forward, in which case we would have to renegotiate. Much has been said about the Worcester agreement. Worcester is a larger metropolitan area. It has probably twice as many in population than Hampden County. Competition, just go across the street, up the street a little ways to Chicopee, or further up to Northampton, or up to Amherst. And that's 6 people, and Holyoke apparently is approving one in the meantime. The largest city in the state, Boston, has 1. So the number of people varies upon the philosophies of the people making that decision. I know Mayor Walsh in Boston has indicated he wanted to go slowly and he wanted one facility. That's what I understand the mayor in this city has said. I don't know what Mayor Koss has said, haven't asked him, but I know that he only picked one particular vendor in that particular community. And I know that vendor has at least 3 years because that's what his contract says. I also know that he does not pay the kind of money we were offering. Northampton, they requested nothing in the way of a host agreement. And in terms of Worcester, although they pay a bigger flat fee over those first 3 years, they pay a cap. I think they start at 1.5 and go to 2.5 in terms of their percentage of gross sales. And that's where the money is for the municipality. We start at 2% and go up to 5%. So I think that in the long run, we would be providing more money. Now, we think this is an important vote. It's an important vote for the council because the public has indicated they want a dispensary. It's an important vote because it shows that they are progressive and they're looking forward and looking out for the best interests of the public, providing them with the health service they need. It's important for my organization that I'm representing to get this as they want to go on to construction and providing services. Most importantly, it's important for those people that you heard at that first meeting with their poignant stories as to why it was they wanted a dispensary in this community. And you think of some of those people, Mr. Ireland talking about his late wife and the relief it gave her, and many other people talking about their loved ones who needed this benefit. They need this benefit more than anybody, and it's more important to them than anybody else. Now, if we're going to argue about 1%, so be it. But I think that don't hold this matter up for 1%. We responded to this through compromise as much as we can. We've reached out as much as we can. We've tried to provide all that we could to show our willingness to be a good neighbor and to provide the services in question. I just hope that this council does not get sidetracked, as many people have told me as I've talked to them. Frank, you've done a good job. We like and respect the fact that you've made attempts to settle this. Our problem isn't with you as much as it is with the executive branch. Where does that leave us? Caught in the middle. And I've heard that from more than one counselor. And I don't know what that is. I'm not an insider as to what's going on between the council and the mayor. I just know I represent a client who's come forward and, as I've said, put forth an awful lot, is attempting to do the right thing by the city. Certainly they're going to make money. That's a given. But we feel that they are providing the service and being fair with the city with regard to this agreement. And we would ask you to consider all that.
Thank you. Councilor Shea.
If I may, Councilor Antonucci, first off, before I ask you the questions I have, I know you put forth the argument of 100 people stepping forth and supporting an argument, but I would submit that that argument doesn't always work. If we packed this room and they all voted that the earth was flat, I doubt that would make it so. So we have to be careful with that argument. But I'm more interested here tonight in that there's a provision in the agreement that talks about payments to civic associations in different wards. Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
And so...
That's the East Springfield and the Indian Orchard.
And I think that that's a very slippery slope for this council to go down. So I guess I would ask you if you could give me the history. How did that come about? I mean, explain to me how all of a sudden a group has come in here and offered to make payments to civic associations and how that worked, because I need to understand that, and I think the council does.
Well, let me make clear the neighborhood agreement, which we attached as a good neighbor agreement, was not negotiated, or nor was I involved at that time in that process, nor was that negotiated with Ed Piculo of the City Law Department. It's my understanding my client in their first instance of coming into politics and government, touch bases with the East Springfield Neighborhood Council, and at some point talked to one of the councilors representing Indian Orchard, and in the course of those conversations, it was suggested payments be made to both of those neighborhood councils. My client agreed to that.
So are you telling this body that someone on the council suggested that payments should be made to the civic associations in a particular ward?
That's my understanding.
Did you find that, how did you find that? I mean, do you...
How did I find
Yeah, I
that?
mean, in other words, is that something that you were in favor of? Is that,
Well, I would
you
have
try to
preferred...
negotiate that out? Let me ask you that.
I did not. I would have preferred my clients come to me before they did any negotiating with anybody, but in their naivety and lack of experience in these matters, just felt that they were doing the right thing by contacting everybody they could to try to assure the passage of this.
All right. Thank you. Councilors, I think we have a very slippery slope here. When we start to have, and I'm sure it was done in good faith, it wasn't done with any malice, but when we start to have a situation in which a developer comes in and they're going to impact the neighborhood, and they wind up having to pay money to a local civic association to do business in town, we are letting a genie out of the bottle that if we do that here tonight, we're never going to get it back in. And this is one of the reasons why the city of Springfield moved away from ward representation years ago, because nothing could get done. It became a log playing role of you do something for me, I do something for you. This is a great proposal for the city of Springfield. And if there's money going to be paid, it should go to the general fund. We should not have ward representatives, and I'm one, that once this starts, if someone develops something in my ward, they're going to say, what are you getting from me? You got something for the other guy, and it's going to happen to everybody here. And if I vote against you, you're going to vote against me, and you can see where the system breaks down. Now, we can't afford to go down this road. I had an English teacher, got her name over at Tech, and I think she quoted Shakespeare. She says, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And this is a good intention, but it is going to lead to an outcome that this council cannot afford to have. And so I'm going to move that those provisions in this agreement be struck that have to do with this organization making any payments to a civic association, especially where it was purported coming from our side. That is not the way we should be doing business. And I'm not faulting anybody here, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to point out from years of wisdom, I hope it's wisdom, and certainly I got the years, that this is not a road that we want to go down, folks. And I'm speaking now to the councilors, not to the audience. So I would ask that I make a motion that any provision in this agreement making payments to the civic associations by this organization be struck from that agreement. And I would hope I could get a second to that.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor, and I understand Councilor Walsh wants to make a point, and we'll entertain that in a second. Before we entertain that motion, though, Councilor Shea, as a matter of procedure, I just want to clarify with Attorney Antonucci and Solicitor Pakula. The amended final draft that's in our packets here this evening is not reflective of the changes that Attorney Antonucci was just referencing, which were circulated earlier to the council. So you saw me fidgeting around. The council staff has just printed what I understand to be that agreement, and in order to have that amended document before us, before we can entertain any changes to that, we'll have to have a motion to have this amended agreement put before us as opposed to the document that's in our packet.
Right.
And to make sure we avoid any confusion, I'm going to ask that the city clerk provide Attorney Antonucci and the solicitor with copies of what we just passed around to make sure that that's the draft that we want to be talking about.
So, to clarify, you're saying that the agreements that Attorney Antonucci just referred to are not in this packet we've just gotten?
The packet that Sue just came around and passed out to everyone, that is my understanding to be the most recent version, the one that Attorney Antonucci was referencing. The one that is in our packet, the larger, maybe 50 or so page packet, is not reflective of those changes. It still has the 10 years, it still has the higher percentages. Are those consistent? Okay. So before we entertain Councilor Shea's amendment, can we first have a motion to put these two documents before us as an amendment to the current order? Okay, the motion's made by Councilor Gomez, seconded by Councilor Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. So now we're working with these two documents that were just passed out. Councilor Shea has made a motion to strike the single-page document, the Good Neighbor Agreement. Is there a second to that motion? Single page. Okay. Motion made and seconded by Councilor Hurst. Councilor Walsh on the motion.
Yes, I'd like to follow up on the concern that Councilor Shea has just raised. I thought it was unusual that payments were being made to neighborhood councils, but I thought it was part of an agreement that had been reached by the executive branch and Hampton Care Facility. I would like to ask the opinion of our city solicitor on this. Did you find it as unusual as Councilor Shea? I mean, I think we need some good, I'm losing my voice. I think we need some good advice on this issue.
Well, I think there's a few issues here. I mean, from a legal standpoint, it sounds like a little, pay to play type thing, which is never good policy. But I don't know anything illegal about this, as Councilor Shea indicated, was probably good intentions. But the arguments really are more policy rather than legal. It is not something that we included in our requests. It's not something that we required as in our negotiations. It's not something that we sought. I don't know who drafted this up or who, and I don't have any background information as to that.
Well, as presented tonight, it's a huge red flag, and I'm just kind of surprised that we're only getting that perspective at this point in time.
Councilor Marcus Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly submit to Councilor Shea's comments about the Good Neighbor Agreement. It's a concern I actually initially raised about the reason that Pine Point was not included in this agreement that did not involve more than one counselor at all. And to that point, I'd like to ask the city solicitor a question, please. Just moving our attention away from that matter for a second. When the attorney said subject to this body's approval after that initial 5 years, can you explain that further for me? Do we have that power to approve something on this matter after that initial 5 years?
Again, not something that I would recommend as a policy matter, but if the parties are willing to do that, so be it. I wouldn't advise that type of language, but
that would have to be an agreement between the executive branch as well as this body.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, all due respect to my colleagues' concerns, I don't believe that the City Council should get involved in something that was negotiated with the Neighborhood Council. If this was a conversation that they had with the Neighborhood Council and came to an agreement with, I don't see why we should intervene. But I would also point out the fact that, Mr. President, if you look at the Worcester Agreement, there's a provision in there that says that the City of Worcester is going to be, in addition to what they're agreeing to pay the City of Worcester, Their developer will also contribute $10,000 annually to public charities or causes of its choosing to benefit the neighborhood in which it's located. And so this is similar to what Worcester negotiated. If, a lot of us have served our neighborhood councils, and a couple of us still serve our neighborhood councils, that we know what that entails. It's a nonprofit organization. It's just like Worcester is doing in their city, and so I don't see an issue with that, and I don't think that we have I don't think that we should get involved in those negotiations. If they've already agreed to that, I don't see why we have to say no to that.
Okay. Any other counselors on the motion? Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'd like to compliment Councilor Shea for pointing this out, at a minimum pointing it out. It's something I noticed, and when he said it to me here tonight, I took more notice of it, and I'm inclined to agree with it. I do wish that you would not say disparaging remarks about ward representation, because I personally think ward representation has been a huge success here. And people are represented who didn't have representation before, at least geographic representation. So, and we've not done anything to disparage the beauty or the fidelity of that. So I think it's very careful in your use of language on ward representation, because I think we've been going 7 years with it, and I've never had, with the conversation we're having right now, we've never had in 7 years. I missed one meeting in 7 years. And it's because you're concerned that ward representation could go a wrong way, and this ward could compete against that ward, and who got more and all that. I think you're right to bring it up. Just be careful with your language with that, if you would, if there's a next time. I love the idea what Councilor Ramos just said, that there's local control, and they work something out. That's terrific. We've never set any guidelines for this, and I think it is a tough thing to kind of legislate when the first occurrence comes up. This is the first time I can recall any issue of this type. And I'm inclined to say that we should think about it separately and figure out how we legislate it, rather than try to fix it the first time through. I'll give you an example. Dollar Tree just opened at the corner of Allen Street and Island Pond Road about 2 weeks ago. And it was not a popular thing in my ward. That's my ward. There was none of this kind of discussion in it. It was all macro level discussion. It was at a good place for Dollar Tree, et cetera, with the normal concerns of zoning and traffic and pedestrian safety and those sorts of things. So it raises a concern, would that have changed the Dollar Tree conversation? If it should have or would have, I think there need to be some ground rules for how we talk about that beforehand. And we've not established those. And I'm not trying to be heavy-handed about it. I love local control. But we have to be careful. We serve, those of us who are ward councilors, as I am one, we serve a geographic part of the city. They have representation through us. But we also vote here on everything that happens in the city. This medical marijuana facility is 2 or 3 miles from the edge of my ward, probably, and a couple miles anyway. And it still matters to me. Do we do it right? Even though it's not geographically near my ward. So I'm inclined to agree with Councilor Shea on it. The other thing that concerns me tonight is Councilor Pakula, our city solicitor Pakula, doesn't seem to be aware of these documents. I'm not quite sure if that's what he meant, but I'm sure he's aware of the new agreement, but this good neighbor agreement, I don't have any sense that that's been reviewed legally by people. I'm not saying you, Mr. Antonucci, but on the city side. So I'm not sure what actions we should take tonight. I want to vote for this thing, and the issues that were brought up here a few weeks ago of healing and serving people and all that stuff resonated with me and still resonate with me. But I would say I would probably support Councilor Shea's request to amend it, to take that out, and we'll see how that goes. But I also would ask City Solicitor Pakula, have you just simply, not the concepts in here necessarily, but just legally, have you reviewed this? Is this part of this agreement?
I don't represent any of the neighborhood councils.
So the city's role in this is the macro level of the city of Springfield would not be part of this because
Correct.
This is between the neighborhood and the...
Correct.
So how does that appeal to you? Because
As a policy matter, I do not think it's a good thing. You mentioned ward representation and each councilor representing a different ward. That's actually not true. Ward representation is a method of election.
Right.
But you're a counselor for the entire city.
I said that.
You have a vote for everything that goes on in the city.
Right.
So I disagree with the concept that somehow if you're in a ward, you should be bringing back for your ward. That is not a good thing to do, as Councilor Shea indicated. That's why we got rid of the ward representation in the early 60s, because we didn't want the pothole politics type of situation, and we didn't want people trading tit for tat, as was described. So as a policy matter, it is not a good thing. But I do not represent the neighborhood council. I was not involved in this negotiation, and it's not something that the law department either approved or that the committee approved or that we made a requirement of.
So how did we get here?
Glad to be here. So I guess that's what I have to say, but those are my concerns. I certainly second Councilor Shea's motion.
Okay. So, Councilor Ash.
Mr. President, just by way of perhaps a compromise, sounded like from what Councilor Ramos is reading, the document regarding the Worcester agreement, seems like that language is a little bit more general, that it wasn't, maybe we could adopt some kind of verbiage that would say that instead of a direct payment to the neighborhood council, would be maybe directed in general to beautifications of parks in that neighborhood, or after school programs for kids, or something like that. That's maybe not necessarily a direct payment to the neighborhood councils there, just as a form of a compromise in order to try to keep this. I don't think any of us want to keep this, hold this project up because of the language there, but maybe there is a compromise that we could discuss.
Okay. All right, councilors. Well, we have Councilor Shea's motion made and seconded by Councilor Hurst to strike the Good Neighbor Agreement from the host community agreement. And Mr. Clerk, that would apply both to the exhibit and to the references made in Section 7. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Although, Councilor Walsh.
I have a question, because this is obviously the first time that this has come up, and the first time that we're looking at the distribution to the neighborhood councils, which I assumed, and I'm sure we all assumed, was part of the negotiation between the city and the petitioner. But how would you feel, Councilor Shea, about the idea that Councilor Ash has just brought up, where the allocation would go to, I believe in the Worcester document, it was for, that language again was it for public projects, or what was it for?
Public charities or causes of its choosing benefiting the neighborhood where it's located.
Okay, so maybe there is a way, not a direct payment, but more of a general direction it could go into to benefit all the neighborhoods, like National Night Out or something like that, where they have every neighborhood.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you asked. Funds went into the general fund. I don't have a problem with that, and I don't know the procedure. I don't know the procedure that Worcester uses that got to that point. It might have been a totally different structure than what we have. I know this wants to go through. I think that the fact that the way it was done and set up taints it. So if the parties want to make an agreement in which the sum, in which it seems they're paying quite a bit now, if they want to put that money into the general city fund for the distribution amongst the, I don't have a problem with that. What my problem is that the perception in politics is perception. And the perception that something has come up and it looks as though it was done in a way and it wasn't intended to be done that way. Please, don't look at it that way. Taints the whole process. So if there's a way to compromise in which the funds go to the general fund because they've agreed to pay it, I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that we have an issue that came up, a specific organization in a specific ward is going to get something which sets a precedent that all of us, once that genie's out of the bottle, are going to have to deal with down the road, just as or Councilor Allen could have had with the Family Dollar Tree. That was a big thing out there. So I don't know where that puts us tonight, but I think we ought to vote on the motion, and then if people want to send it back to committee to work out the other piece, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So
But I think we ought to vote on the motion and then pick it up from there.
Okay, Councilor Shea stands by the motion, properly made by Shea and seconded by Hurst. Any other discussion? This motion would...
So just to clarify, is this motion removing the amount of money that was going to the neighborhood councils altogether, or does this motion create an opportunity for those monies to be redirected to more of a general purpose?
This removes it altogether. So this would strike any reference in Section 7 to a good neighbor agreement and would also eliminate Exhibit A, I believe it's referred to as in here, which is the good neighbor agreement itself. After I think what Councilor Shea is saying, after we vote on whether or not to strike this, there could be additional motions to introduce new language to supplement the offset of that $5,000 that would be lost from this.
No, could that be included in the motion?
He said no.
Yeah.
And it's his motion, and he's going to remain on the motion. Councilor Edwards.
From my understanding from some of the hearings and some of the comments that have been made before, is from the law department is that we don't have the role of negotiation. We can either approve, but that role of negotiation is with the executives and with the proponents of this facility. We only get to either approve it or not approve it. Am I misinterpreting? And would this vote to change it or to make this change and then the reintroduction of a new change, wouldn't that constitute us negotiating, which is not, by your testimony from earlier meetings, not our role?
More than that, renegotiating the terms is not something that was on the agenda for tonight and would probably be an open meeting law violation. So there's been a motion to strike this portion here. You can vote it up or down, but to think that we can stand here and renegotiate the terms, that this is some sort of bargaining session, is just indicative of how awkward it is and somewhat impossible to say that a legislative body should negotiate contracts. It's just not a legislative function.
So for my own clarity, I'm under the impression that we have limited options tonight. We can either vote for this as it is presented tonight, we can vote against it, or we can send it back to committee, at which point this particular motion that is under discussion now could be considered and then advertised as a part of another meeting and brought back out for discussion. But legally, we as a body tonight are not allowed to negotiate the terms. We either vote for it or we don't vote for it. Is that more accurate in my mind?
I would agree with that. Okay. In my opinion, I mean, there's some sort of agreement between an entity called the East Springfield Neighborhood Council and the Indian Orchard Neighborhood Council and this entity that we have an agreement. And to think that we can renegotiate on all these other terms that haven't been advertised, that people aren't here, that there is no format for negotiating in this type of session,
not here.
Seems ludicrous.
Mr. Solicitor, just for clarification, the document that we voted, which was negotiated between the executive and the applicant, that we just amended to include, that was not a part of our packet. So is it your testimony that that is an open meeting violation?
No, not at all. That has been discussed, and I believe the notice of the thing is a vote to amend. I think that's how it was advertised. That was what was publicized. But now, again, you're getting into all these terms which affect all kinds of people that haven't had any notice, that affects their rights. It just doesn't seem right.
Mr. Clerk, this document that we did amend, this was not the document that was noticed, right? The one that we amended to reflect all the general language?
That document was not in the packet that went out, pursuant to notice. However, the item which is to discuss the amended host community agreement was the agenda item advertised.
Yeah, but this has substantively different terms than the one that's in the agenda packet.
I would defer to the law department, but my interpretation of the open meeting law is that the items to be discussed must be advertised. The item that was advertised was a discussion on the amended host community agreement.
I see, I understand. Okay. Councilor Hurst?
This is a condition of a special permit. And if it's a condition for a special permit, which I believe is what it was at least a couple weeks ago, we negotiate conditions for special permits all the time. And so from my legal analysis, I don't quite see why we can't negotiate this the same way we negotiate conditions. So I would have to disagree with Attorney McCool.
Okay.
In all deference, Counselor, the planning department puts together the terms for a special permit that come before you. It's not a negotiation, and in fact, contract zoning is prohibited in Massachusetts. It's not a negotiation of a contract.
We're splitting some hairs here. Councilor Gomez.
I just have a question because how it's stated, and from the testimony of Attorney Antonucci, the agreement was between the neighborhood board, or the neighborhood boards that were stated, and the actual Hamden Care Facility. Because they came up, my question is, because they came up with the agreement on their own without legal advice, how he stated, can this body come in between that agreement and take off number 7?
I wouldn't recommend
and amend that, right? It's like we're getting involved with something that we didn't, even you stated that you haven't seen this as of yet, so.
Oh, no. It wasn't a question of I haven't seen this as of yet. What I said was I took no part in negotiating this, took no part in requiring it. It was presented to us by the company as we want to include this. We've reached this agreement.
I think my question is because from his, I'm sorry, I apologize, from Councilor Shea's motion to strike this from the amendment, can we, if we wanted to tonight, because they created the agreement, as was stated, are we allowed to strike number 7 then? Yeah. Out of the agreement, because the agreement wasn't with this body or with the executive branch.
You can do what you want, but I would not advise it.
Right, I'm just clearing my thoughts, that's all.
And just as a point of information for the council, at the last public meeting that we had on this matter, there were several terms that were amended and voted on at that time. Is there any other councilors? We have a motion on the floor to strike the good neighbor agreement and any reference thereto, particularly with respect to Section 7 in the host community agreement. That would eliminate the host community, that would eliminate the good neighbor agreement. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No. Okay. Chair is in doubt. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
On the motion to delete any items relative to payments of money to any civic associations in the city of Springfield, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Shea.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twiggs, absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook, absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
No.
No. Councilor Ramos.
No.
No. Councilor Marcus Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
No.
No. Councilor Ash.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
No.
No. Councilor Walsh.
No.
No. Councilor Fenton.
No. Less than sufficient. Motion fails. Okay, back to the agreement as a whole here, folks. Councilor Gomez.
Now that we kind of talked about that, now if this verbiage, how Councilor Ash was talking about, and what was proposed by Councilor Melvin Edwards, so now because we can't mitigate this contract or talk about it, or change it, then I think I motioned it back into committee,
Second.
because then we can't change it.
Second.
Okay.
Right? And if they're going to change the verbiage on that, they do that in committee.
That, I'm not sure I agree with that,
I
but
just
that was the
don't want to waste
testimony that
nobody's
was
time.
correct.
I'm just being honest. We're going to sit here
You got a second?
talking in circles.
Okay, so there's a
I
motion
don't really
to
want to do
committee.
that, but
Good, it's okay.
Motion to committee made by Counselor Gomez. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Shea. Any discussion on the motion? Counselor Ramos.
Mr. President, I'm prepared to support the motion to committee. I'm looking at the numbers. The numbers themselves don't make sense to me. I think that what we have before us today is a deal that is much worse than the one that was originally proposed to us. I ran the numbers. If you look at the reduced percentage, and Attorney Antonucci keeps saying that it was just 1%. We're not talking peanuts here. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference between what the city of Springfield would have been receiving from the original proposal to what they're currently proposing.
No, excuse me.
In the original proposal, it called for the city of Springfield to receive in year 1, 2017, $108,000. Under the new proposal, we're at zero. By year 2, it was reduced from $250,000 to $100,000. Year 3, and this is based on their projected gross income. In year 3, the proposal is being reduced from $310,000 to $150,000, and in year 4 and 5, it is being reduced from $310,000 to $248,000 a year. So if you add it up, the difference from the original proposal to what they're proposing now is $412,000, and much less than what the city of Worcester is going to be receiving from 4 different facilities. So to me, I don't support this proposal. I think that this is the original proposal. I was happy with, minus the 5-year or the 10-year exclusivity. And even now, with the 5-year exclusivity, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be open to competition. When there's no competition, it's the consumer who suffers because they're going to be paying a higher price, and that's just not fair to the consumer. And so, to me, I support the motion to send it back to committee. I would encourage the subcommittee to entertain the idea of eliminating the exclusivity altogether and or restoring the original numbers that this petitioner was proposing.
Okay. Anyone else on the motion to committee? Okay. Councilor Marcus Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I disagree. I think that the people have waited long enough, and I think that we should move to vote. And the reason I say that is because the exclusivity clause is one that is a hang-up for councilors of this body. And that fact, in my opinion, is not going to change from today, tomorrow, or next month. And I think that the subcommittees have done their due diligence in expressing those concerns. And I would certainly just make the motion that we move to vote.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to send it to committee. Councilor Hurst?
Just before we vote, I'd like to second actually what Councilor Williams said. I think he makes a very good point. I think the biggest issue here is around exclusivity. And I think there are a lot of councilors that are not in favor of one company coming before the council or coming to the city of Springfield and operating in isolation. I agree with them. I think it just hurts the consumers. Anytime you don't have competition, it can only serve to produce a bad product and drive the prices up. So unless we can get multiple or assure ourselves that there are multiple companies that are going to be presented at the subcommittee, which I highly doubt, I think we should either vote it up or down. In addition, I was just looking at the current draft of the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol legislation, and apparently entities with medical licenses at the time of legalization, if this is approved, will have a 2-year grandfather period where other entrants are excluded from operating. So that essentially would mean that this particular company handling affordable care will be in business for a period of If we approve it today, a year, and if the ballot question gets approved, they'll have another 2 years of exclusivity. Well, not only they be able to do medical marijuana, but they could potentially sell marijuana that is not medical. And so they will have that option. They'll be able to operate as a monopoly, and that to me is a problem. So.
Okay. Counselor Allen. There is a motion on the floor to refer the matter to committee. Before we can entertain any other motions, we have to dispose of that one. Counselor Allen.
The concept of exclusivity continues to baffle us or to be confusing. I need a clarification. When, and maybe Mr. Antonucci could come up, if I could ask him to come up. Is that all right?
Sure.
Mr. President. I am concerned about exclusivity like everybody else, but it's to varying degrees, all of us. If you have a patient out Hamden Care Facility, I believe it's called, so, and they decide not to do business with you for whatever reason, service, price, whatever, can they go to a facility in another community?
It's my understanding if they have the prescription and the necessary licensing from the state, they can go to whatever dispensary they want, one of the 4 in Amherst, the one in Northampton, or the one in Chicopee, or the one that will be in Holyoke. They can go where they want. So we're in competition with all of them, and they're in competition with us.
So the monopoly is just...
It doesn't mean people from Springfield can only go to us.
It just means that there could be another one in Springfield.
That's correct.
If people can go to Chicopee or Amherst, why is it so important to you to have exclusivity if they can just go to Chicopee and Amherst?
Well, why did MGM want exclusivity? And they got it. So there's an exclusive thing. You invest a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort. You don't want to have a municipality cutting the legs out from under you economically by cutting a deal with someone else before you've recouped what you put into it. I imagine that's what MGM was thinking, and that's what we're thinking.
Okay. Well, the comparisons, we can argue the comparisons. There's certainly some comparisons. I'm just trying to sort out in my own head what you lose or what you gain or what this community loses or gains by voting this tonight, and by, it's just like if I went to Walmart in Springfield, is what you're saying, they didn't have something I wanted, I could go to Walmart in Chicopee.
That's correct.
And maybe they have it.
They're correct.
And you're saying that same thing applies to you. If
they don't like what we have or the price that we have, they can go elsewhere. And believe me, the people in Hampden County, from my experience in living here for a lengthy period of time, I don't want to say how old I am, but that's what they'll do. They'll shop for the bargain, they'll shop for the quality, and the best price point that they can get.
And I know these places, are any of them open now? Anybody serving?
Northampton.
Northampton is open now. So someone in Springfield who is in dire need of this or has been prescribed this can go to Northampton now?
That's correct.
And be served. So we're not holding people up, but is there any pricing?
Well, not holding them up, other than that's a half-hour ride, and some of the people who you saw in...
Logistically, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
At least there's an option. So is there any model for how people price your services? You've done all these offers of financial compensation to us, et cetera. You've built a business, what's your build out, $1 million or $2 million?
The build out will be $1.7 to $2 million.
So is it contemplated, in an industry as young as this, is it contemplated that the price of the service will be relatively the same in different places? Or is it expected to be big variations?
Well, I think like anything, it's going to depend upon the quality, and it's going to depend upon the service as much as anything. I don't think that you'd find somebody in Springfield selling exorbitantly higher than they're selling in Chicopee, or in turn Chicopee from Northampton. I believe the prices the market will dictate in that regard.
Okay, so, but just to repeat the first point, my last question.
I mean, we can't sell at a higher price markedly than anybody else, because quite frankly, You can get on 91 and get to any of these places relatively quickly, and people will do that, just like they go to the Walmart that's cheaper or the...
So is it as simple as the Walmart conversation or comparison I just made, or is there a relationship to develop between the provider and the patient?
I can't say since I haven't been involved, but I would assume just like the old neighborhood drugstore, if you know the pharmacist and they take care of your needs and provide you what they want, then you're going to be happy. Now that neighborhood pharmacist, or in this case dispensary, may be the one in Northampton as opposed to the one in Springfield, or for a Northampton person they might build a rapport and like the quality in Springfield. I think this is a market that's going to go up and down the valley for those who are trying to procure this particular information, this product.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hurst, it's a motion to committee on the floor.
Wouldn't Hamden Affordable Care benefit if there were multiple marijuana companies in the city of Springfield? I mean, wouldn't we in turn as a city not be so demanding in terms of what we're asking you guys to provide for the city?
Well, in answer to your first question, no.
Okay.
In answer to your second question, I can't tell you if you'd still be making a lot of demands or not, even if there were more people.
Fair enough.
Can't answer for you.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to refer this matter to committee made by Councilor Gomez, properly seconded by Councilor Shea. Any other discussion on the motion? Councilor Allen, closing.
I just have one quick question. So are we voting on the committee first?
Yes, the motion is, the motion on the floor is to refer the matter to committee. After that, there was a motion which was out of order to call the vote. It's not proper with a motion to committee on the floor.
And if we get to the second motion, and it passed, as Councilor Marcus Williams mentioned before, it would get, if it were to get votes, and it would get passed with the good neighbor agreement in effect.
If the agreement was subsequently passed after we vote down the motion to committee, it would, as it stands, have the good neighbor agreement at part of it. Okay. So, motion to committee made by Councilor Gomez, seconded by Councilor Shea. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, roll call, please. I think I know the outcome, but just to be safe.
On referring their order to approve the host community agreement to committee, Councilor Hurst. No. Councilor Shea.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twiggs, absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook, absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Marcus Williams. No. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ash.
No.
No. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
No.
No. Councilor Fenton.
No. Less than sufficient. Motion fails. Councilors? Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, if we're not going to send this matter to committee, and according to Attorney Pakula, we have no authority to negotiate, as it stands, I don't support the way that this is being proposed. It's not a good deal for the city, and I encourage my colleagues to vote it down. Because if we vote it down, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You know, there were 6 other developers 6 other qualified petitioners that the study committee approved to move forward. And if this developer, this particular petitioner, doesn't want to give the city of Springfield a good deal, or what we would consider a fair deal, I'm pretty sure one of those other 6 will. Maybe even give us a better deal. And so I don't see why we have to approve something that we don't feel comfortable with. We're not getting a good deal as far as the percentages, the exclusivity. Altogether, it's just not a good deal for the city of Springfield. You know, at the very least, we have to, I would encourage that we strike down the exclusivity completely if we feel that we have that authority, despite Attorney Pakula's interpretation. But as it's written, it's just not a good deal for the city of Springfield. We have other developers that are willing to come into the city of Springfield and negotiate better terms. So, you know, we'll be here next month voting on another deal from a different petitioner. It's not the end of the world. Let's just vote it down and we move on.
Okay. Any other councilors? There was a motion made earlier. The spirit of it was let's get to a vote. So, Councilor Shea?
All right, so I obviously would vote no against this total agreement, not for all the issues that some of you have talked about the competition, but because if we pass this with the good neighbor agreement, we have cemented into the rules of this body and the procedure that it is okay to have counselors or members of this committee and ward folks negotiate items in which civic associations or other groups get paid to play in the city of Springfield. And that is the danger. If this could go back out to committee and have something worked out where those same funds go into the general fund, that would be fine. But if we establish this pattern, we are going to let a genie out of the bottle that none of us are going to be able to put back.
Okay. All right, councilors, we're going to call the roll on the agreement as presented. There's no amendments made this evening except to put the stapled packet and good neighbor agreement in front of you. We've been at it for well over an hour, and we've got other hearings tonight. So, Councilor Bud Williams.
Just a point of information. This is a special permit, so if it's voted down, they can't come back for 2 years.
This is not a special permit. The special permit was approved at our last hearings meeting with the condition that they properly negotiate a host community agreement with them. If this is voted down, I'm going to instruct the city clerk to send a notice to the applicant telling them that their special permit is void for lack of being able to comply with that condition.
Then with that being said, it's 2 years. They can't apply.
No, because the special permit was approved. There would not be a 2-year prohibition for the special permit.
Then what happens? Maybe Attorney Pakula can give us some direction in terms of this is voted down. Then what happens with the process? Is it opened back up again?
When you have a special permit, you get 2 years to build, so to speak, to get your building permit. I know that this body believes it has the power to revoke special permits. I would suggest you don't. I know the one time that we tried to do that the court overruled us. This is not a situation where the rule would be that their special permit is void because they don't have a host community agreement yet. You get 2 years to do that. So we would probably be here for the next 2 years is what we're looking at, to try to get something that everyone can agree upon.
Oh, certainly. I think the solicitor's point is well taken. If they could find a way to comply with the condition in the next 2 years, sure, the special permit would be good. But without it, they're in violation of one of the conditions, is my point. Okay, so, Councilor Ramos, briefly, please.
Mr. President, just one last point I want to make. In the event that this does pass tonight, again, I'm a no vote regardless, but in the event that it does pass, I would not want this to pass with the exclusivity clause. And so, despite the interpretation of Attorney Pakula, I'm going to attempt to make that change tonight and make a motion that we completely remove that section of the agreement for the 5-year exclusivity, and that we vote tonight on up or down on this agreement without that clause in there.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion is made by Councilor Ramos, seconded by Councilor Gomez. Before we deliberate on the motion, I think at the very least it would be worth the time to ask the applicant if they would intend to comply with that motion. If the answer is no, the council, I think, will have some pretty good information based on how they intend to vote, how they ought to vote on the motion. So, you know, the question to the applicant is, would the applicant assent to the removal of the exclusivity clause in its entirety?
Mr. President, we've been forthcoming throughout this process to ask us to negotiate with the public on this issue before I've had an opportunity to talk to my clients. I believe totally in there, and I would not recommend any decision at this point.
Okay. Sounds like a no. Councilor Shea.
I think the same rule applies to Councilor Ramos's motion is applied to the good neighbor. If we couldn't do that tonight, we certainly can't do the other. I mean, the same rule applies.
All right.
He's right.
Just,
Let's have a vote on the motion. The motion is to strike the exclusivity language in the agreement. Motion made by Councilor Ramos, properly seconded by Councilor Gomez. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
No.
Those opposed, no. Okay, Mr. Clerk, roll call again. I think it's a no, but let's do a roll call. And after this motion, we're going to call the roll on the agreement as presented.
Vote it up.
On deleting the last paragraph of Section 2 of the agreement that was introduced to this council, the paragraph reads, I'll read it briefly. The parties to this agreement agree that the Hamden Care Facility shall be the exclusive and sole dispensary of medical marijuana for a period of 5 years, commencing in the year 2017. Exclusive and sole dispensary rights will continue for a period of 5 years, with an option for an additional 5 years, subject to the approval of the Springfield City Council and subject to renegotiation as stated in Section 3 of this agreement.
Okay, roll call, please.
The motion is to delete that language from the agreement. Councilor Hurst. No. Councilor Shea.
no.
No. Councilor Twiggs. Absent. Councilor Allen.
No.
No. Councilor Rook. Absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
No.
No. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Marcus Williams.
No.
No. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ash. No. Councilor Edwards. No. Councilor Walsh.
No.
No. Councilor Fenton.
No, less than sufficient, motion fails. Okay, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll on the agreement. There have been no amendments this evening to the document that's in front of you. It includes the good neighbor agreement, and it also includes the 5-year exclusivity.
Is it a simple majority, Mr. President?
Simple majority, 7 votes.
On approving the host community agreement, Councilor Hurst. No. Councilor Shea.
No.
No. Councilor Twiggs, absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook, absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
No.
No. Councilor Ramos.
No.
No. Councilor Marcus Williams.
No.
No. Councilor Gomez.
No.
No. Councilor Ash.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards. No. No. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
No, less than
No.
sufficient, agreement fails. Okay. Okay, Mr. Clerk, this body will have a 60-second recess to allow the interested parties to clear the room, and then we will host our Chapter 40A special permit and zone change hearings.
Tommy, what I don't understand.
Okay, councilors, I'm going to call the meeting back into session. This body is now going to sit as a quasi-judicial body, a public hearing authority. According to the rules and orders of 2016 for the Springfield City Council, any applicant for special permit or zone change before tonight's meeting will be offered an opportunity to present their case. During that case, they will have up to 20 minutes. If there are opponents, they will then be offered 20 minutes to present their opposition. To the extent that there is a desire for rebuttals, there is a 10-minute rebuttal portion available to both proponents and opponents on either side. These hearings are conducted consistent with those rules and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call item number 4.
Item number 4 is an application for a special permit for motor vehicle rentals at the property known as 117 Spring Street.
Okay. Everybody, we're back in session. Is there anybody here for 117 Spring Street. Okay. I know we were in that last hearing for quite some time. Phil, could you check the hall and see if there's anybody here for 117 Spring Street? Nobody? Okay. There's nobody here for 117 Spring Street. This is it's a special permit for parking of U-Hauls. Okay. All right, do we have a motion to table this matter until our next hearings meeting? Okay, motion made by Councilor Williams, seconded by Councilor Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, the hearing was not opened for that item. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is an application for a special permit to operate a drive-up service window at the property known as 600 Liberty Street.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Good evening, sir. Please state your name and residential address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering, Turnpike Road, Southborough, Massachusetts. Here to discuss the special permit before you for a drive-through restaurant located at 660 Liberty Street here in the city. I'm sure most of you are aware of the location and the project. It's an existing McDonald's that's been there and operating for quite some time. A previous special permit, almost identical to this, was presented to the council back in 2012. It had been given an affirmative vote at that time. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, the work wasn't completed. So effectively, we're back before you this evening to simply renew that special permit, seek the same approvals we were looking for previously, which is really nothing more than adding a side-by-side drive-through at this facility, doing some exterior and interior upgrades to the facility itself, and making a small modification to the parking, which we're doing simply to, again, facilitate that side-by-side drive-through. I'm sure you've all seen the new style of drive-throughs at these McDonald's. They function better, they allow for less queuing, they're more convenient for the customer, and that's simply what the applicant is looking to do this evening. I know you've already had a busy agenda, and I'm sure you've got other things tonight to discuss. So with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I do have some presentation materials that I can set up if the council sees fit, but I figured I'd start with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect that this body is also in receipt of a letter from the Hungry Hill Neighborhood Council stating that they support this project. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? They support this project. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Bless you. Say again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Any questions from the council for the applicant before we?
Just, Mr. President, I noticed in the petition, the hours of operation were not listed. Phil, on the hours of operation, they weren't listed.
Well, the special permit was amended back in 2014 to extend the hours to, I think, 2 a.m. But that was not what was being petitioned tonight. So if they're looking to change the hours, I would recommend that they have to come back and request that, because that was not what was submitted for the petition, nor was that discussed with the neighborhood council.
Because I know in talking to the McDonald Brain Trust, they were thinking along the lines of what they do in the North End, the 24-hour one in the North End of Springfield, have the police officers who come, but they'll have to go back before the neighborhood council, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that, again, there was no mention to me of a change of hours of operation. Like I said, back in 2014, they did come in and amend it to 2 a.m., but that's the latest amendment we have on the hours.
So what would be the next step? They have to go back through you or back to the neighborhood council?
Both. I mean, they would have to petition to amend the special permit to extend the hours.
Can they start that process immediately, or?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Phil. Fair point. Excuse me? To have what? Let's go here. Beer and wine?
With respect to their common vicular license, they'd also have to come back before the License Commission to change the hours that they want to operate.
For what now?
Yeah, I'm going to say it one more time.
I've never heard that before.
Their common vicular license, and I'm not sure, I didn't pull it, so I don't know.
That's
what it
McDonald's.
says. Correct.
So there's no beer and wine there.
I'm sorry?
You said beer and wine?
No, I said a common vicular
I
license.
first ever heard of that. I never knew they had to do
Yes.
that.
That would be a restaurant license without the benefit of alcohol at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Thank you very much, sir. Seeing none, that closes this portion of
All
the
right, thank
hearing
you.
and the hearing. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
On approving the special permit, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Shay.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twiggs, absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook, absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Marcus Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ash.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes. More than sufficient. Councilor Hurst on the reasons.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use to incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision at the basis of the findings.
All those in favor of the condition say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, Mr. Clerk, item number 6.
Item number 6 is an application for a special permit to amend an existing special permit for a property known as 437 Bay Street.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, I'm going to recuse myself for this matter. My employer represents the applicant. Turn the gavel over to Councilor Ramos for this hearing.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please step forward. State your name and address, please.
Ellen Fryman, 1441 Main Street, Springfield. And here representing Better Homes Properties LLC. We were here previously and got approval for a special permit to allow a structure that had been abandoned for more than 2 years to be opened up and reused. And the plan that we submitted originally showed a portion of the building, or the property, the existing improvements as being demolished, or that we were going to be able to demolish it. Since coming before the council, we have learned from Mass Historic that there are historic elements to a portion of the building that we wanted to demolish. So we cannot demolish it, and we want to substitute the plan that was originally presented with the special permit application and approved with a new plan that shows the existing building intact. And so that's why we're here tonight. So it's amending the special permit that we have already approved.
Councilor Gomez.
Mr. President, I have to recuse myself also. I sit on the Board of Directors.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
I just would like to, I don't have a question, but I mean, I did take a look at that property and walk around it, and the day that I was there with the petitioner, I can't tell you how many people in the neighborhood came up to us and said, are you finally doing something with this property? What an eyesore it is, and what an improvement it will be.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how disappointed I am that you have gotten that ruling from the Mass Historic Commission, because I did not consider that. It may be historic, but it's certainly not attractive, and it's really too bad that you have to deal with it. And so I am going to support this because it's really going to improve the neighborhood, and you could just tell from the foot traffic that people are really ready to have something good in that spot.
Yeah. Thank you. And we'll still make it look good. And we were surprised too and had done homework and didn't expect that we were going to come back with that determination.
Councilor Bud Williams.
Can you appeal? You can't appeal it, though. You've got to stick with it.
It's going to affect the funding,
Yeah.
you know, and it's not worth it. We're just going to clean that part of the property up and we're going to make that part of the building look nice also.
Thank you.
Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Council Walsh said, this is a win-win for the Mason Square community. It reminds me of the Indian motorcycle builder, the old fire station, which we finally developed through this, with this council's help, Gordon Pelchifer. And also that has been an eyesore on the corner of Oak Grove and Bay Street for I don't know how many years, and I don't know how many people have tried to develop it, but kudos out to you and your organization to get the job done because people deserve better. But that will enlighten the Bay Area Council is very happy and very excited to support that. I received the phone calls on it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you and good luck to you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Please step forward. Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this proposal? Please step forward and state your name. Seeing none, this now closes the hearing. Mr. Clerk.
On approving the special permit, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Shay.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twiggs absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook. Absent. Councilor Bud Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton recused. Councilor Marcus Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez recused. Yes. Councilor recused. Councilor Ash. Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes, more than sufficient. The special permit is amended.
Okay. Mr. Clerk,
Kind of surprised
item
to see
number
this one on
7,
the agenda.
please.
Item number 7 is a application for a special permit at 232 Orange Street.
Councilor Shay.
Mr. President, that's in committee. I'm going to move to take it out of committee because of the timeline that's been in there. And then the petitioners will have to call down and schedule a hearing.
Okay.
Can you explain what you just said?
I'm sorry?
Councilor Shay is taking the matter out of committee because
taking it out of committee.
the amount of time that he can keep it in under the rules is about to expire.
Oh, I see, the 90 days.
So we're now
Okay.
putting it back on the agenda. The applicant is not here, so
Okay.
we'll entertain a motion to table the matter.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a motion made by Councilor Shay to table it until we can schedule a hearing with the
Second.
applicant. Motion seconded by Councilor Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Matter is tabled. Item number 8, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 8 is an application for a special permit to operate a drive-up service window at the property known as 1809 Boston Road.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Yep, my name is Michael Petrin. I'm a project manager with VHB. VHB is located at 1 Federal Street in Springfield. Here representing Friendly's Restaurants, LLC. Excuse me. They are seeking a Tier 3 special permit for a drive-through window at their existing facility at 1809 Boston Road. There will be some site modifications. I, again, also have some site plans that I could answer any questions with, but in the manner of time, I'll put them up only if you guys ask. The drive-through will be installed adjacent to the, side of the building, furthest from, or perpendicular to Boston Road. There will be some site modifications, some increased landscaping as part of the project. Some slight parking space loss, however, we will still meet the zoning requirements. We did meet with the Indian Orchard Citizens Council, as suggested by Councilor Ramos as well as Phil Dromey. They voted in, are recommending approval based on our on-site meeting, public meeting. And with that, any questions?
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Do any councilors have questions for the applicant? Seeing none, that closes this portion of the hearing and the hearing. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, I'm not sure if we received a response from the neighborhood council, but I was told that they did vote to support the project.
Yes, we did receive a letter in support. Okay, Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
On approving the special permit, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Shay.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Twigs, absent. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rook, absent. Councilor Bud Williams. Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Marcus Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ash.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes, more than sufficient. Councilor Hurst on the reasons.
The specific site is an appropriate location for such a use, structure, or condition. The use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use to incorporate the planning staff analysis into the decision at the basis of the findings.
All those in favor of the condition say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Item number 9, Mr. Clerk.
The last item, which is under suspension, is a recommendation from the Board of Public Works regarding the installation of a mid-span pole in front of 1100 Dickinson Street by Eversource.
Okay, this is a utility pole installation from the Board of Public Works. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the application say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Clerk, I need to be marked as an abstention for that one. Okay, petition is approved. Any more business? No more business?
I have no further business before this council.
Okay, this body is going to stand adjourned until Monday, September 12th. I will not be here. Councilor Ramos is in charge. Everybody enjoy the rest of your summer.